Let's make one thing perfectly clear. In today's world of college football, there are no more voluntary workouts.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you are watching the show on YouTube, pick your platform, download the podcast. It's always free, and I always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we're going to find out how old some of you are. Raise your hand if you know who Bernard Riley is. Today, he's the athletic director and head football coach at Austin High School in Austin, Texas. He played his high school football at Los Alamitos High School. Dude was a stud. Mike Patterson was also on his team when he played there. Back then, I believe the high school coach was John Barnes. He had that program rocking. Bernard eventually got to USC, defensive lineman, late 90s, early 2000s. 25 years later, I still remember Bernard Riley. He had one of the greatest answers to a question about off-season voluntary workouts. And his response was clear, concise, to the point. Quote, "Everyone better volunteer or I'll kick their ass." End quote. I'm bringing that up because USC's offseason is over. I mean, it ended quietly in the dark. You probably have seen some of the images, videos, pictures, whatever, of the team working out in the dark, early morning on campus. You know, they're out there for their voluntary workouts. But again, there's no such thing. In the past, winter workouts were voluntary. You showed up if you want to, if you have the time. That word voluntary does not exist anymore. It's gone. Remove it from the description. These are off-season winter workout conditioning sessions. And they're pretty much mandatory. They're mandatory because if you don't show up, your teammates are going to notice. More importantly, the guys who decide playing time are going to notice, your coaches. But each year, USC needs new players that they have to be ready, take over. There's going to be a starting role left behind by someone who graduated, going off to the NFL draft, or they're taking advantage of college football's free agency transfer portal rule. It's really important that if you want a chance to be a starter, to fill in one of those open positions, better be out there. You better be out there. You better be giving 100% effort when all you're doing is running wind sprints and doing competitive things with your teammates. There's really no football involved. This is all about getting in shape, hitting the weight room, working on your speed, agility, those types of things. But again, there's going to be some open spots for new starters in 2025. And I put together a list of 5 guys. There's way more than that. But here are the first 5 guys that I want to talk about. I'll bring up more as we continue through the offseason on Locked On USC. That's why you're here. So the first one, I think he's definitely going to be a starter this year. Tobias Raymond. He's a redshirt sophomore, which means he's actually entering his 3rd year into the program. Personally, for me, I think that is the ideal time, the perfect time for an offensive lineman to make his push for that starting role. As a true freshman, he redshirted. He didn't play in 2 games, but after that, he pretty much shut it down. Coaches figured out, you know what? Let's give him some time to develop, get in shape, get him ready to play. He also, besides, as a true freshman, getting into 2 games. Since then, he saw some spot action. And then last year, he actually started the bowl game against Texas A&M. And he showed that he's more than capable more than capable of handling the spotlight. So I guess the real question everybody needs answered about Tobias is, can he do it consistently? Is he ready to be the full-time starter? And, not to downplay USC's first 2 games of the season, Missouri State, Georgia Southern, but the competition obviously isn't going to overwhelm him. So it's going to allow Tobias, as well as the rest of the offensive line, to kind of come together, work as a glove, 5 fingers, work out any early season kinks before they hit the road and play at Purdue. Let me remind everybody, you're not going to miss him when you see him lining up out there. He's 6'7", 315 pounds. It's hard to miss. He's got all the physical, the necessary tools physically to lock down that right tackle spot. And again, it's wide open because Mason Murphy transferred to Auburn. Here's one that I've been talking about it. Again, I'm on this path right now. Quarterback Husan Longstreet, 5-star. We know he's had a pretty impressive offseason. He just got done performing at the Poly Bowl. He showed off his arm strength, threw the ball 78 yards in the air. Some people compare his style of play, his athleticism to Russell Wilson, NFL All-Pro. Here's why I think he has a chance to start. Maybe not the first game of the season, but here's why it could happen. I mentioned USC's first 2 opponents. This is the perfect time. If you're going to break in a true freshman at quarterback, you're at home for 2 games against lesser opponents before you actually hit the road. So the plan is, Jaden Mayaba is heading into spring camp. He will be the incumbent at starter. You've got the competition with him and Husan. Don't forget, you got former 5-star Sam Heward. He's also in the mix. If Longstreet can lock down that playbook, and obviously he's not going to have it locked down by the end of spring, but if he has a really good grasp of the playbook by the end of spring camp, and that's able to translate on the field in the spring game, and he can carry that over through fall camp, I'm just saying, it's not out of the question. Third guy, Walter Matthews. Yeah. 4-star recruit. He also redshirted last year. He was recruited by every single program in the country, all the ones that matter. And when he arrived on campus as a true freshman, you look at him and go, all right, first dude off the bus. When he walked into that tight end room, he might have been the most physically impressive player in that room. But he wasn't an early enrollee, and when he enrolled, he showed up during the summer. Unfortunately, he was dinged up. He spent most of his time rehabbing an unidentified injury during most of the season. So he redshirted also. Now, you're saying, well, Mark, don't forget, you got Lake McRee returning. You've got Cade Eldridge. You've got Carson Tabarachi. You've got Walker Lyons, Joey Olson. Walker Lyons played a lot last year as a true freshman. Well, we know that Lake will be one of the starting tight ends, but we also saw that Coach Riley utilized a lot of 2-man tight end sets, a lot of 2 tight end sets last year, and I'm kind of getting the vibe, the feeling that they're going to run the ball a little bit more this year compared to last year, which I'm fine with. Nothing wrong with that. So if Riley does go with those 2 tight end sets, I would count on Lake McRee being one of them. Walter Matthews, dude's 6'5", 250 pounds, runs like a deer. Yeah. Tell me you can't envision Chad Savage saying, all right, I'm also on the tight ends and I'm the inside receiver coach. Let me see how I can use that young man's natural skill set. Again, competition's wide open for that second spot. Let's see what happens. And again, I'm not saying that Walker Lyons or Joey Olson or Carson Tabarachi aren't capable. I'm intrigued by this young man. To me, you don't see these types of guys showing up on USC's campus all the time at tight end. This is one of those dudes. And then I'm going to switch over. I got two guys on the other side of the ball. Both play cornerback. Marcellus Williams. You remember last year, spring camp, when it ended? Celis was that name that just kept popping up for everyone. Keep an eye on this guy. And if you saw him perform in the spring huddle, the spring game, you're like, yeah, I see why the coaches and his teammates are talking about him so glowingly. And he actually played in a game last year. He was part of that shutout against Utah State. He recorded one TFL. He was hurt most of last year, so he also ended up redshirting. And look, there was just so much veteran experience in the cornerback room last year. You had Jaylin Smith, who developed into an invite at the Reeses Senior Bowl. We're going to talk about him in the next segment. Jacoby Covington, he locked down the other spot. And then you had the transfers, John Humphrey and DeCarlos Nicholson. It was going to be tough for the freshman to break into the rotation, even if he was healthy. But again, he didn't play like a freshman last year. He showed that he was ready, and I anticipate that one more year of maturity, going through that maturation process, he'll be even more ready in 2025. I will not be surprised if Celis locks down one of the starting cornerback spots in 2025. The other one, another freshman, Braylon Conley. He also played last year. He got in the game against Utah State, helped with that shutout. He was credited with one tackle. What I like about Braylon's game, if he doesn't start at corner, why not nickel? Why am I saying that? Well, he played safety in high school. Even though USC recruited him to play cornerback, he knows how to play safety. He knows how to play in the middle of the field. So that might be another option for him. Physically, Braylon is a really fluid athlete. He reads the play quickly. He always has his body in a really good position to make a play. And I think mentally, he also has the right mindset that you want if you're going to play cornerback or play defensive back in general. He's not afraid to let his opponent know that he's out there. He will let you know, hey, guess what? I'm defending you today. It's going to be a long day. You like that type of mental makeup when you're playing cornerback, because you have to be able to have a short memory. If you get beat, get back out there and go beat them the next time. All right, so those are the first 5 guys who I think have a really good chance, potential starters in 2025. It starts right now, earning the respect of your teammates during the winter conditioning drills. And then obviously the coaches are, kind of eye spying it as well. So start now. And then when the football shows up, that's when you can take it to the next level. Attending NFL playoff games, I've done it once. I had a lot of fun. If you've never had the chance, you need to find the opportunity. Try and find the time. And basically all you need to do is find tickets. This year, GameTime, it makes it really easy to create those unforgettable moments. They have this new feature called GameTime Picks. It filters out all the fluff. It's only going to show you the best deals on great seats. That way you can focus on what matters, getting to the playoff game. Well, now the Super Bowl. You want to go to Super Bowl 59? Check out GameTime tickets. I like their feature, the view from their, where you can view your seat before you check out. That way you know exactly what you're getting. And if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less after you purchase it, GameTime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So there's a guarantee. There's no risk involved. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms are going to apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. You ever heard the phrase quality over quantity? Well, I'm talking about how many players USC has representing them at the Reeses Senior Bowl. possibly in the NFL draft. It's not going to be a big number. As far as who's participating in the Senior Bowl, 3 guys, 3 good guys, 3 high-quality individuals, both on and off the field. So, again, while I don't anticipate too many Trojans hearing their name drafted during the 2025 NFL draft in this spring, in April at some point, that doesn't mean that Jonah Monheim and Jaylin Smith and Woody Marks aren't improving their draft stock this week down there in Mobile, Alabama. Just want to go over some numbers with you and some feedback I've gotten. Obviously, when they checked in, they do their measurements. They start poking and prodding them, getting them dressed up in their t-shirt and underwear, standing up, stretching out their arms, doing all that stuff, treating them like a lab rat. So Jonah checked in 6'4" and 1/8 inches, to be precise. 307 pounds is what he weighed in at. Hand size, good hands, 9 1/4 inches. Arm length, 30 5/8. His wingspan, 77 inches. Let me remind everybody, okay, Jonah played every single position on the USC offensive line during his time there. He's versatile. He's smart. Tough player. I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick, but he's a unicorn. He's going to be a very, 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 for emphasis, very valuable asset to whichever team decides to pick him. I think he's going to end up playing inside at the next level. Remember, he came back in 2024 to play center because that's where a lot of people feel he'll end up playing when everything's all said and done. I don't think he's going to play tackle, even though he played left tackle at USC. He's definitely going to be an interior lineman, and I think center is his ultimate destination. This week, he's playing center in the Senior Bowl, and so far, every rep that I've seen, he's dominating. Whoever is lining up across from him, Jonah's just taking his name, tossing him aside, saying, next. Some of the scouting feedback, Monheim's burst allows him to establish, first meaningful contact more often than not. In other words, he gets his hands on the guy before the other guy gets his hands on him. If there is an area of concern, I guess for some, it's his arm length, possibly getting overpowered by much bigger and stronger, nose tackles. I'm talking about those guys who are, 360, 370, 380. But the thing that Jonah is able to compensate because he doesn't have that big upper body strength, he's got really quick feet, got really good balance, never off balance. And his shoulders, he's usually squared up, keeps that defender in front of him. And because of his size and his ability, playing at the center position, he knows how to use leverage to his advantage. And when you get your hands on the guy the first time, you're able to keep that player extended. And I think those are some of the benefits that you see some of the good things you see when Jonah's playing on offensive line. Jaylin Smith, he's going to get drafted. I remember going into last season, a lot of folks were like, I don't know, man. Is he any good? I don't know what round he's going to get drafted in April. He's going to make a roster. When he checked in, size 5'10" and a quarter, 182 pounds. Hand size 9 1/4, pretty good hands. Arm length 30 inches and 30 1/4 inches. Wingspan 74.5 inches. Pretty good. Here's what everybody's really noticed about J-Rock. Guy's got speed to burn. On day 1 of practice, he was recorded with the fastest time, 21.61 miles per hour. Not bad. Not bad at all. And it's because of that speed. He can spot receivers and close gaps quickly, which makes him basically a defensive nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. When you got somebody who can close the gap, you better be accurate and you better have a really strong arm to squeeze it in there because Jaylin will get his hands on it. One NFL scout said, Jaylin Smith is a twitchy and physical cornerback with fluid movements underneath to take away quick passing lanes and get him involved in the run game. Another report I read, Smith excelled in a situation where defensive backs are purposefully put at a disadvantage being in a pure one-on-one situations while there's the entire field to work with. Smith's fluid hips, upper body strength, and instincts shined through those drills. Smith was one of the few players who received consistent praise from the coaching staff during the day, whether it was in individual drills, isolated reps, or 11-on-11 situations. Smith delivered and had a very solid performance. Love hearing that. So a couple pros and cons. Pro, Jaylin, very aggressive. He's willing to support the run game with his physical style of play. Con, being too aggressive. Sometimes he takes himself out of a play, but because he's got that speed that allows him to recover and make up if he does misdiagnose the play. I was looking for other, draft buzz on Jaylin, and I found a little article about the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been interested in him since last year. So they've had him on his radar. And look, if you're into prop bets, head on over to FanDuel, say who's going to draft. See if you can place a bet for Kansas City Chiefs drafting Jaylin Smith. Could win some good money. The other guy who's out there in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl, turning heads, USC running back Woody Marks. I love this guy. You already know that he broke the 1,000-yard barrier at USC, first time since Ronald Jones back in 2017. He finished the season with 1,100 yards. 57 or 58 consecutive games with a pass reception out of the backfield. That led the country. So we know he has good hands catching the ball coming out of the backfield. That was his big thing coming over from Mississippi State. 2024, he showed, you know what? I might not be an every down, a 3-down guy in the NFL, but I can carry the ball 10 to 15 times per game. Nothing wrong with that. So when Marks checked in at the bowl, a Senior Bowl, his hand size, he's 5'10", 215 pounds. Not necessarily a big guy, and he's not the fastest guy, but good hand size, 9 1/8 inches. Arm length, 29.5. Wingspan, 71 7/8. As I said, when he got to USC, Woody quickly became someone I wanted to see with the ball in his hands as often as possible. Again, not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, but he knows how to play the position really well. He sets up his blockers nicely. He's patient. All he's looking for is a little seam, a little crack, and if he sees that and he gets through that first wave, he's going to make that second defender miss. He has that special, unique ability to kind of put guys on skates, so to speak. You think he's going this way, then all of a sudden he's going that way. And do not let his size fool you. Dude's tough. It's hard to bring down. He's not a power back by any sense of the means, any sense of the definition, but a pretty tough young man. Yeah, he can take a hit. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Showed a lot of toughness playing for USC. Marks is a weapon in the passing game. He runs multiple routes, has soft hands. He's experienced in catching the football out of the backfield. He has 257 receptions over his career. He's considered a dynamic dual threat playmaker and creates mismatches against linebackers in coverage. Kind of what I was alluding to once you get to the second level. So those are the three guys who are at the Senior Bowl. I know I have a really good feeling about Jonah and Jaylin hearing their name called during the draft. Woody, I'm hoping can hear his name. It'll definitely be towards, I would think, 5th, 6th round. But that's not going to deter him. He's going to make an NFL roster because of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And then as far as USC reaping a reward out of this, having just 3 guys at the Senior Bowl. So you got Jonah, you got Jaylin, you got Woody. Just having those guys there, that's giving USC some extra exposure. And I think that will resonate with recruits. and hopefully, transfers going forward. So a lot of good things having those guys there. Do we want more USC Trojans representing in these types of, senior laden all-star games that kind of get you ready for the NFL? Absolutely. But when you don't have them, you look at the quality over the quantity and you highlight what they bring to the table. So hopefully going forward, as USC's roster continues to get better, not only will it be quantity, but it'll be the quantity of the quality that they're sending. All right, one more segment to go. People ask me all the time, Mark, why don't you like the recruiting star rankings, the ratings? This is why. Here's a perfect example. So 247 came out with their final rankings, and Jakeem Stewart, who was a composite 5-star, top 50 player, 55 player in the country, well, new rankings came out. He dropped down to number 95. I get it. The young man didn't play his senior year of high school after reclassifying. So I get that part of the subjective speculation, projecting how good of a player is going to be. But what changed? Why did he drop 40 spots? I mean, seriously. This is just one more reason why these things are mostly bogus. Like I always say, and I just want to emphasize this. Look at who is offering the young man coming out of high school. Then you know who, if the player's good, if they have potential. If somebody has an offer from Alabama, USC, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Clemson, any of the name programs, Texas, Oklahoma, you're a good player. I don't care if you're a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. If those programs want you, they've seen something on film or they've seen you in person enough to go, you know what? I'm willing to take a chance. And again, the same people who dropped him in the rankings and the ratings, they're the same ones who watched him on the camp circuit. I mean, he was dominating the competition this entire time he was out there showing off. I think this is just more of the, those good old boys being upset that someone from SEC country chose USC instead of an SEC team. And so this is how they get back at you. Affect your NIL valuation. Happens every year. Really does. So who else do you think is underrated in USC's recruiting class? It's weird calling Jakeem Thanos Stewart underrated, but apparently he's underrated now. I hope some of you folks can sense my sarcasm. I hate the fact that I have to explain it to some of you. Again, listen more, watch more, get the personality. You'll understand the difference between my sarcasm and when I'm being a hater. Anyways, there's one other player who I think is severely underrated in this incoming recruiting class. The only reason Gus Cordova is rated so low, it's because of that. If you're not familiar with it, he had a little bit of a minor hazing incident with one of his teammates as a junior. No need to rehash it, but it was, I think, in my opinion, a little bit overblown, and both parties have moved on since. I don't think there's any hard feelings about it. But it kind of feels like Gus is being punished for it after the fact and not based on his production. And this is why. He played at the highest level in Texas State football. And last year, his senior year, he finished with 18 and a half sacks, 27 quarterback hurries, 89 tackles, and of those 89 tackles, 24 of them were for a loss. Why is he a 3-star? Go look at his offer list. It wasn't, USC and a bunch of chumps. Again, this is why I am not a big proponent of the star rating system. Never liked it, never have, never will. I like following recruiting, but I'm more concerned about which programs like you. Everything else is just a subjective opinion. So a couple other guys who I think are underrated in this incoming class. What about Tanuk Hines? Romero Eisen. Here's another name, Alex Graham, defensive back, state of Michigan. So those are guys who I think are going to play sooner rather than later. A little underrated if you're into the stars. Who else do you got? Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Friday rant. Definitely will be involved in that. And I'll get you ready for the weekend with some more football recruiting news and anything else surrounding the USC football program. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.